Today, we're talking all about how to be the best small group leader that we can be. So whether you're a small group leader yourself or a youth pastor who's leading small group leaders, this episode is for you.
Thank you for joining us for the Ministry Coach Podcast, where we bring you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your youth ministry. My name is Jeff Lascola. This is
Kristen Lascola.
And if you guys are just joining us for the first time, welcome. And make sure you go back and check our episode on Upfront Games, because currently we're running a free giveaway. I guess any giveaway is free.
I was just about to say, I would like to pay to be in your giveaway.
Maybe there are some where you have to pay and then no. Make sure you guys go back and do that. And we're going to announce a winner tonight. This is going to be our second winner. And we're going to do that after we do our question of the day. So make sure you stay till the end for that part. So today's episode is all about small group leaders.
Yeah, how to be a better small group leader. Just like level up a little bit for being a small group leader. So first of all, if you are a small group leader,
God bless you.
Hats off to you, my friend. And you're a saint and you are amazing.
Yeah.
And we cannot do ministry without you.
Yeah.
Like there is no youth group without small group leaders. And I don't want to sound like a sap, but I thank God for these people on my way home from youth group all the time. Like I'll just sit in my car, I either call my mom or I thank God for my small group leaders, and I go through them by name. Like, God, thank you for Andy. Like he's incredible. I can't believe you gave him to me. God, thank you so much for Alyssa. She's just so amazing. Like I just go through and say them by name, because like without small group leaders, like I said, no youth group. So this is, if you are a small group leader listening, then you can take this and run with it. If you're a youth pastor, maybe you're also leading a small group and being a youth pastor. We definitely pull double duty on that. If you aren't leading a small group, then maybe this is an episode that you want to pass along to your team and have them listen to it and maybe talk about it as a big group of, just your strategy on how to lead really, really good small groups. Mm-hmm. So let's get into it. All right. Number one, talk less, listen more. And the reason I put this one on there is because sometimes, not all the time, I feel like there is a certain breed of small group leader that feels like small group time is sermon number 2 time.
Yeah.
Like you've already had the message, you've already had worship. All right, now you're ready for another message. Am I right? And the kids are like, no. And this is a hard trap to fall into. I had to guest lead a small group last week because I always have 2 small group leaders for this reason, and they were both gone. So I led their small group, which ended up being a blast, but I found myself getting sermony, and it's like, I tell them not to do this, and here I am. So it's really easy to do. But here's the thing. So the art of small group leading centers around being a really good question asker. So I always tell them, you know where you want them to land. Like I usually, at the beginning of my talk sheets, I tell them, here's the object, meaning this is what the big headline that we want students to walk away is that Jesus wasn't just a good person, Jesus is God, and because of that, it changes everything, okay? So if that's what we want students to walk away with, how can we strategically ask questions and lead them through scripture? Well, when Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, like what did he mean by that? Well, I could just tell them, like give them the answer and like get all sermony, but well, why do you think he said that? Or how do you think people would have responded to that? Blah, blah, blah. So, you're leading them through and trying to get them to come to the big crescendo, Jesus is God, kind of thing. But the whole, think of it as like a learning strategy is that ideas stick more when they've come to that conclusion on their own. When they get their light bulb moment, that's when that kind of stuff sticks. So when you're just talking at them and just telling them stuff, the learning process is disrupted a little bit. So they've already heard a sermon on Sunday, then they've heard another sermon on Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever your youth group is. Please be a small group leader. Don't be the preaching pastor person. So I was gonna say don't be the pastor, but then I stopped myself because I'm like, you are a pastor if you're a small group leader in my book. So your job is to learn the art of question asking, which might already be done for you in the talk sheet. So lean on that, but then pay attention to where your students are going. And if they kind of want to like zigzag a little bit to the left or the right, like go with it if it's good and productive conversation.
So even before point number 1 would be, if you're a youth pastor, make sure you do have questions or prompts for them ahead of time. Yep.
And if you're a small group leader, open it and look at it and prepare a little bit, you know? And I don't think like, well, you need to spend an hour with this talk sheet and go and cross-reference these. And no, just know, like, go through, circle the big ones that you definitely want to hit. I think small group prep should take you about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's number 1. Number 2, and this one is tricky for those middle school small group leaders. High school and college ones probably have a little easier time, but make it purposeful. Okay, so I think like getting like their little wiggles out for the first 5 minutes is usually good. Like, hey, let's chat. Last week when I led that small group, I said, hey, let's just go through your highs and lows. Like, what was the best and worst thing that happened since the last time I saw you? You know, and that gets them going and gives them the opportunity to kind of like get it out of their system that we're all together now. And then I like to pray, and that's kind of the break. And that's the transition. And then if you have a group that really struggles with focus, then you can reset the expectation every week. Like, hey guys, remember, once we pray, we're going to switch gears a little bit. It's not the you show anymore, but I want you to participate, but in ways that are relevant to the conversation, not like fart jokes or whatever it might be. So
I do like the highs and lows, but I do think you also need to set some boundaries, because you will have some of those kids where it's like, oh, I've got the floor, so here's the next 30 minutes. I'm going to talk about every high and every low that I can imagine. It's like, oh, and we're out of time.
Last week, it was like boom, boom,
That's
boom.
good.
We got it done. But I have had those groups that you're talking about. So in that case, I would put like 30 seconds on my phone and be like, ready, go.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You know, and sometimes they didn't even use the whole 30 because they just knew.
Just knowing that they have a time constraint on there.
And if you have a lot of kids, you definitely need to go. But, you know, smaller groups, you have more time. So here's the thing is like, don't let the small group be a waste of time. I think so. Some small group leaders want to be like preaching a sermon. And then there's another type of small group leader that's just like, let's chill, guys. And it's like, well, a good youth pastor has already allowed some time for chill. We've like hung out, and then we played a game, and then we've led into worship, the message, and small group. All of this was supposed to lead to some meaningful conversation. Don't just revert back to chill time, because it's building to, hey, I had fun. Hey, I got time to be social. Oh, hey, I got to worship. Then I got to learn something, and now I'm ready to talk. And that's the whole point. And this breaks my heart as a youth pastor is when I have these like random side conversations with students, and I'll be like, hey, how's your small group? And there'll be like a certain brand of kid who's bummed because the small group leader let everyone like just do whatever they want. It was out of control. There was no direction or purpose. And this kid was like there with their Bible and ready to take notes and learn and contribute. And if we can't feed that sheep, I'm like, this is like a tragedy. Like you came here
this
ready.
Is where you're supposed to come to be able to learn.
And I'm all for relational time, you know, like that's important, but make it purposeful. Like they should come and leave with something because they were in your small group. So
yeah. And imagine that conversation on the ride home. Like, what did you learn at church?
Yeah.
Nothing. Oh, great. Why are you going?
Right. And it's hard. Like I empathize with you small group leaders, because sometimes you're like, are you serious? Like, how am I supposed to like get anything done with a bunch of 7th grade boys, you know? And I understand that. So that's why I try those techniques of like, let's pray, set the expectation. And then if they're too out of control, you might just have to like I know we cringe because we want the kids to like us, but like be the bad guy for a couple of weeks and just be like, hey, you know what? You're not helping this conversation go in the right direction. Would you mind just stepping out for a few minutes and going and seeing the youth pastor, who hopefully isn't leading a small group. Hopefully there's someone that you can send kids to that just need, and I never make it like discipline, like you're bad, like get out of here. It's more just like, hey, like I can tell like you need a little time out. Like, why don't you just like gather yourself, then come back in? Cause I know you have really good things to share tonight, And so you might have to kind of set that expectation of like, guys, I'm going to protect this time. And that's ultimately what it is. Like you're charged with protecting that time to be something meaningful. And if you just are too worried about kids liking you to do anything about it, like we might need a like gut check on that a little bit. So another great thing to make your time purposeful is like change it up once in a while. I have a small group leader that like brings treats for his kids, like if they all bring their Bibles or something like that. So surprise them once in a while. Like,
or maybe if they can be quiet and listen and talk
they get
and
rewarded
share the right way, then yeah.
Yeah. Or like if it's someone's birthday, or like if you like bring fun craft things to do, like once in a while, I think it's fun. Like when your kids come into their small group and all of a sudden they're like surprised, like we're going to do something cool. When I was a small group leader just starting out, I brought a bunch of stuff and the girls and I made like these prayer journals, and it was one of our really fun nights. So just like, yeah, find opportunities to surprise and delight them. Okay, number 3, this one is hard because this is a constraint on your time, but connect with them, find a way to connect with them outside of youth group. So back in the day, I remember every Tuesday, I would like get my small group list and I would like, boop, beep, boop, boop, boop. Hi, this is Kristen. I'm Dana's small group leader. Is she home? Oh yeah. And I would literally talk to them on the
phone.
Yes. This was back in the day. So now it's actually easier because you can just text them. You could DM them. But another like, and all you have to say is like, hey, like, I'm so looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday night. Hey, I know you last week wanted to pray about your
cat.
It's always about a cat, right? Or a dog. It's not even theirs most of the time.
My neighbor's friend's cat.
How's that cat doing? Following up with prayer requests and stuff like that. So finding a way to communicate, like, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Hope you'll be in small group. Like, make sure you're connecting with them outside of group at least once throughout the week. Another great way to do that is being present at a game or a performance. Mm-hmm. If you want to win points with parents, my gosh, like, we had a small group leader. She's a rock star, and she went to this like orchestra performance of these kids, and the parents like couldn't, for like the whole year, they were talking to me about it. They were so touched. So if your kid is into music or sports or whatever, like, not every single game or every recital, but
right.
Hey, try to find a couple throughout the year to schedule that you're going to go and just sit there, bring a friend, hang out, go to dinner after to make it, more fun for you. But yeah, go to their games, go to their performances. Another really fun one. And I plan this as a designated night for our small group, but doing small group night out. So instead of meeting on a Tuesday at the church, we do something called small group night out, where all the different small groups plan a fun night out for their group. And we plan it well in advance so that we can get the permission slips and everyone ready to go. I make flyers for all the groups. And that is a really cool way for small groups just to go out and bond and have a good time. Yeah. And we do that on a youth group night because they're already free. So we don't have to like, let's take a Saturday and do this thing. So like groups will go like miniature golfing or paintball, or one of my groups rented a video game truck.
Oh, I forgot
and that
about
was
that.
Really fun. And then I say, hey, if you need me to help drive, I'll help you drive. But my thing during that is I go to all the different groups and visit as many as I can get to. Some are too, like, someone will be down at the beach or something. I usually don't get to them because it's a little far, but yeah, trying to like just take a bunch of pictures and hang out throughout the night. That is a really fun event to get at least 2 a year. I try to do one in the spring and one in the fall. And some small group leaders are going to need a lot of help planning it. So be available for that if you're a youth pastor. But get a couple of those. And then as a small group leader, one more way to connect with them outside of youth group is go to as many camps and events as you can. So I know, like, because of work and family and all kinds of stuff, school for yourself, you can't always make it to every single thing. But I tell my leaders, even if you can come to our glow night for an hour and a half, I would rather you do that than nothing at all.
Right.
So it's really great when the kids get to see you at those things and you're having fun together and you're more invested in the group. You're just going to bond quicker. So, and like a week at camp, I know that's a lot to commit to sometimes, depending on your station in life. If it's local enough and you can just drive yourself and go to camp for a couple days or visit for the day, if it's like a winter camp that's local or something. Or hey, if you can take the whole week, go for it. Like, that is such a great way to bond.
Yeah.
It's really going to accelerate your relational chips you have with kids. All right. So number 4 is try to meet their parents if you can. So if you can meet their parents during pickup or drop off, that's incredible. If you just text, like if you can get their number from your small group students and just check in and text that parent and say, hey, Jeff, I'm Annika's small group leader. I would just want you to have my information. Let me know if there's any way I can be praying or, supporting you and your family, love your student, blah, blah, blah. Just so that they like know who you are. I know, like, it surprises me sometimes because I'm not intimidated by parents at all, but sometimes I forget there's a lot of younger leaders that are like, yeah, right, I'm not talking to parents, but you would be surprised how appreciative parents are of that. And if they're kind of like giving you the cold shoulder, like, you don't have to like be their best friend, but you're just making that first move to say like, hey, you know where to find me. I love your kid. Just wanted you to know. Yeah.
And they're probably more afraid of you than you are of them. Just like
they
snakes.
They are. Parents are like snakes. That's true. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I always appreciate it when like our daughters, like teachers at different things, like go out of their way to say hi. Like, it's not like we always form a relationship, but at least I know like, oh, cool. Like you see me. It's not like, so, and at church, I think that's especially important because we're in the business of relationships. Like that's what we build everything on. So, and you know what? You might even want to just parents email. I know like our students don't email, but you could, if you don't want to text a parent, find their email address and just say, hey, here's the way to get a hold of me if you want. Number 5, how to be a good small group leader or a better small group leader is to challenge your students. And so sometimes like, because you are in a position of influence in their life, I think you can kind of position yourself to like really rally them for something and they kind of get excited about it. So like a good challenge would be like, hey, we're going to read a proverb every single day and like text me like a thumbs up when you've done it or something, like get a group chat going about it. You can challenge them to memorize scripture. Like, all right, guys, I'm going to pick a memory verse. And if you could do it in a week, I'm going to have like,
it goes back to that reward
chicken nuggets
thing
for you or something like fun like that. Yeah, exactly. And they'll hopefully rise to the occasion. Some groups, they're at a level where it's just like, hey, leaders have told me all I want is for them just to bring a Bible, like just bring your Bible. And it's really important to that leader. I'm like, hey, well, challenge them in some way and promise them a reward and make it a fun thing. But like really, you can rally them for that. So whatever it might be, maybe you guys want to do some challenge together. We're all going to read like the book of John or something like that and kind of go that extra mile, or like create a challenge based on the talk sheet that you talked about in groups. So it's like, if we were talking about loving people, like, all right, next week we're all coming back and I want to hear a story of how you kind of got out of your comfort zone this week and love someone that's difficult for you. Can't wait to hear about it. So, and then you can send that group text that week of like, hey, stop avoiding the challenge. Like you only have 3 more days, stuff like that. But like, get this like camaraderie going, among your students and among you and them, and then get them excited to come back and share. So that's number 5. Number 6, and this goes back to kind of more now the art of discussion leading. Like we talked about in number 1, we talked about asking really good questions. Well, the art of leading discussions also comes in you mediating and moderating the health of the people in the group. Because you've been in a Bible study where there's been that person. I know you have, because we all have. We call them EGRs. They're called extra grace required types. And it requires everyone to have extra grace. Well, you're an adult, so my guess is you might be rolling your eyes on the inside sometimes, but it's not like you're going to be mean to this kid, I hope. But students don't always have that level of grace for each other.
Yeah.
So what your job is to make sure that no one person is able to dominate the conversation or really bring that conversation down to a really weird level, or if they're going off on these tangents or talking about themselves the whole time or being really irrelevant, you know, like we've had students that just kind of go off to la la land sometimes, and the leader's trying to be nice. They're like, oh, okay. And they're like listening because they're like, clearly this kid needs someone to like listen to them. But again, if you're being a good small group leader, again, it's not about you being liked by the kids necessarily. It's about you leading a really good discussion. And I've been in Bible studies like that before where I've left and I would go home and my mom would say, oh, like, how'd it go tonight? And I said, awful. All we heard about was this girl and how she likes this guy for 30 minutes. Like, I want to know, like, that's a part of your life, but like the leader just let her keep going and going and going and going. And so this was like a college group. And I remember finally telling the leader, because we were kind of peers, we were in college. I was like, hey, like, could we like maybe like do a timer or something? We all get to share. Like, I can't handle it anymore. And she's like, oh yeah. So, you know, you need to advocate for your students' time. And so, and on the flip side of that too, there's those kids that are introverts, that might be really wanting to share, but they need to be asked directly. So sometimes we take their silence as, well, you didn't want to share, so you didn't. But if you know anything about introverts, sometimes if you just say their name and like, hey, like Lily, like, what do you think? Or, hey, like, you know, I know you know something about this. I'd love to hear your thoughts, you know, and drawing them out a little bit. But basically, you're trying to create healthy dynamics as well as healthy conversations. So you really need to pay attention to what's going on in the room. Is there a kid totally checked out? Is there a kid who's dominating? Is there a kid that's super confused and like, when you tell them like, find the book of John, they're like, is my Bible upside down? I don't even know how to work this thing, you know, like, so making sure you're paying attention to all those dynamics.
As a card carrying member of the introvert society myself, I know that sometimes it's hard to know when to interject. Maybe you have, I have something really good to say. And it's like you're merging onto a freeway and you can't quite find the right, where can I can't and I ended up going off.
Or your wife tells all your funny jokes just louder.
Guys, seriously.
So he'll like say jokes at growth group or when we're hanging out with friends, but he says them so quietly, nobody hears them. And then I'll just say them louder.
And take full credit.
And everyone laughs that I'm the favorite. And it's wonderful.
And I'm the puppet master in the back. No, but it's true. I struggle with that sometimes where during a conversation, especially with multiple people, I'm always like, but and I can't ever find the right time. And I
or the dominators, they just jump right in and they just talk right up. See what I did there?
I know, yeah.
See,
and that's what I usually have to do to you. But I'm used to doing that with you. It's other people. Sometimes you don't feel that comfort level.
It's like a jump rope thing.
It is.
Like double dutch.
Perfect example. And I'm like, I can't quite get and it's moved on.
And I just jump in. I'm like, it's tangled, but oh well, I'll just hop around.
And now we're switching games. You're like,
I'm playing dodgeball. Where'd you guys go?
But I had a good point that
Be
I wanted
quiet,
to share.
Introvert.
Yeah, that's how it goes. So give them some pointed questions.
Yes.
And hey, so and so, what do you think of this? And then that might give I had a great answer, and then it comes out. You'd be surprised.
Yes, I agree. So these are the last ones. These are just kind of closing thoughts. They're not necessarily numbered, but communicate with your pastor. If there's a really big frustration going on in your group and you're like at your wit's end and you like get so stressed when it's Tuesday, you're like, I don't want to go, or Wednesday again. I'm just going to say Tuesday because that's mine.
Let's say Thursday.
Nobody has youth group on Thursday. Okay. It's always Tuesday or Wednesday. But yeah, communicate with them. Like if you're just like, hey, like this kid is really difficult, or you know what? Someone said something, it kind of raised a red flag for me. Like, what do you think I should do? Just make sure you're keeping them in the loop. We've had some situations that were like the small group leader was just in over their head and they needed help. And, you know, we had to work together on some stuff. So never be afraid to ask for help. Keep them in the loop.
Are you talking about me the first time I went to summer camp and had a mental breakdown because the junior hires were like destroying the place?
I don't remember that.
You don't? They put sunscreen
didn't
on
I tell you to go take a break?
I had to like drive down the mountain
and
I thought I might just keep going. Like, they had put sunscreen on the ceiling fan in the room and turned it on. And I walked back in. I was like, why is there sunscreen, like a line of it all across the room? And then they said, well, we put it on the ceiling fan.
Duh.
And then we threw pillows at it, and now we think it might be broken. I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave.
Poor Jeff, it was his first camp
and last camp.
No,
I stuck it out for many more years.
We threw you to the wolves.
Yeah,
you had no
idea.
That
was a fun group, but they were wild.
They were. You came in with a rough crowd. They were precious, but like very sneaky.
Yeah, but it goes to show you though, I still have like connections with those kids.
Yeah.
And when I see them, we still talk it
they
up
love
and all
you.
that.
Yep.
So.
You got into their heart. Okay, so another closing thought is make sure you're consistent. So I like to ask for a year commitment for my leaders. I used to only ask for 6 months. Nobody stayed for 6 months. It was always like longer than that. So be consistent, commit to a school year, maybe not a full calendar year, but at least a school year, and make sure you show up the majority of the time.
Yeah.
Like taking a night off here or there because of a special thing or whatever, no big deal. So it should be a rare occasion that you're not at youth group. And the last closing thought, and this one is very important to me, makes a huge difference. Okay, do not be the leader that just stands in the back. And
this is going beyond small group time. This is talking about just regular.
During youth group. Talk to your kids, sit with your kids, worship with your kids, play the games with your kids, get off your phone, start my leaders really like each other. And I love that because we're really close and we have so much fun together. But sometimes you have to discipline yourself a little bit to say, ooh, I really want to hang out with other leaders. Right. Or like, I'm not going to play the game. I'm just going to kind of chill in the back or whatever. Like you kind of like remove yourself and become more of an observer than a participant. But that's like such a bad example to students. And then
to other leaders.
Right. And it just shows like this weird distance and lack of investment. So like, hey, during the fast songs, jump around, do the hand motions, have a good time. Like during the game, if you refuse to play dodgeball with 8th grade boys, I don't blame you. But at the same time, you can cheer for your team. You can help ref. You can retrieve balls. Like there's other things that you can do. Or, hey, maybe go and sit and talk with the kids who don't want to play dodgeball with 8th grade boys. I love when my leaders do that. Like, hey, they don't want to play the game. And then they found some kids that don't want to. And they're hanging out with those kids. So at least they're included in some way. But the bottom line is participate your heart out, be that leader that's in the mix, that's creating energy. Like I can't tell you how much, like as a youth pastor, how much I appreciate those leaders that are like help creating momentum and energy and excitement. Cause I'm on the stage with the mic trying my hardest to be fun and funny and energetic and like keep the night going. And I don't want to do that alone. Like it's lame. So when I like have other leaders like cheering and excited and getting kids like jumping around, and I try to do that for other leaders. Like when it's their turn to MC, their turn to speak, their turn to lead worship, I'm like right in the mix. I'm front row,
right.
Like going nuts, doing hand motions, gathering kids around, so I try to model that as much as I can. But yeah, participate.
Yeah, it makes a world of difference when someone's hyping up the crowd and all that. It's like when you're at like a comedy club and someone tells a joke and nobody laughs. It's just really awkward. But then I feel like if some people laugh, then more people laugh, then all of a sudden it seems like it's more funny.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't or something, but I don't know. I feel like there's like that mob mentality or something.
Totally. And I think one thing it takes for a certain type of leader is kind of abandoning yourself a little bit, like looking like a fool, like right. For the sake of ministry, like being kind of I think some leaders hold back because they're like, I don't want to look stupid. But then we're teaching our kids like,
I'm too cool for
yeah,
this.
like we want them to like, hey guys, like don't worry like what other people think of you, you know?
Right.
And like sometimes I'll do things and kids will just look at me and like shake their head and I'll be like, you love it, you know? Like you just have to own it, you
Right.
know? Like they're gonna love you for you, and the more confident and energetic, and when you start modeling, you don't have to be like, to be cool is to be fully invested, not like hanging back. Like those are
Yeah, because do second semester kids really need any extra incentive to be too cool for them?
right. So totally. But that's my closing comment.
All right. Well, let's get to the question of the day, and then we're going to tell you who the winner is for this week.
Okay.
Question of the day is, last week we talked about, and I don't even remember what the episode was. Program schedule. The schedule
Yes.
for your whole program, kind of we laid it out. And the question of the day was, what was your first job? I was going to do what was your worst job, but that might have been your first job. We're going to go a different direction, but similar. What was your most unique or random job that you've ever had?
Okay, so mine was right before you and I got married. I worked way too far away at
It's like a 40-minute drive or something.
To work at this Asian import store because I knew I was going to need to buy my own wedding dress. And so I worked there every Saturday, which was a bummer because you and I didn't ever get to hang out on the weekends. And they had things that I was like they were literally like, they were authentic. They were all like
decor type stuff.
Yeah,
right?
like bowls and gongs and salt lamps and furniture and all kinds of stuff. And it was like back in this like really random shopping center in San Diego. And I knew nothing about sales. And I would just sit, like, we were really slow. I just kind of sit there all day. And I think back to it, I'm like, I worked there?
Yeah,
like that's so strange.
Such a random memory.
So strange.
I have two, and they're both equally as weird, so I feel like I should share both. The first one was when I was in college. I took just a part-time job at the cashier's.
Oh, I remember you telling me.
I don't know what you call it, cashier's department or something. And my job was two parts. Number one, I was counting the coins from the parking meters.
Wow.
So they would bring them in.
So you were in finance.
Yes.
Ooh.
They'd bring in this giant sacks of quarters and coins, and I would pour them into a machine that would sort them into.
So you didn't even count them.
No, true, right.
Them.
I just had to be there to
just
operate the
pourer.
machine and make sure it didn't get clogged. And they had like my own separate tiny like closet room to do it. They had a lot of trust in me. I mean, I guess it'd be hard to steal a lot of money and be jingling when you walked out of there. But yeah, I did that. And the other half of my job was just shredding paper. Because with cashier's office, so many credit card transactions and addresses and things like that, information from people, and they would just give me these piles and piles of paper, and I would literally be shredding paper for like an hour. Just
but you
putting
like
them,
those weird kind of like
it.
menial
I was just
tasks.
like off in my own world.
Yeah, that would drive me
It
insane.
was great. The other one was I took a summer job working for Jack in the Box, which for those on the West Coast, I don't think that's a East Coast thing, Jack in the Box. Anyways, it's a fast food restaurant. I worked as a mystery shopper, which they would give me like 3 restaurants somewhat locally that I would go to, and I would have to order specific items. And if I went through the drive-thru, I'd like
French toast
have to
sticks.
time how
Orange
long it
juice.
took to go through the drive-thru. I would have to eat. They said not to eat everything. They just said to try
this is like
everything.
a junior hire's dream job.
And it was decent pay, and I got paid from the time I left my house till that time I got back. So if I was in traffic, I was getting paid.
Wow.
And so I'd have to try everything, all the food, and then write up just a paragraph. The French fries were a golden brown and crunchy. It was so easy. I gained 15 pounds in 3 months. I kid you not.
And I would like to see a blood panel after that.
They would only let you work this job for 3 months. Probably that's why.
Because like of the health
gluttons
risks.
like me, yeah. So they said just test everything. I finished everything. Like I would just eat. So it would be 3 meals back to back to back. And I would usually do that 2 or 3 days a week.
So foul.
But it was great. I loved it, and I gained a lot of weight. With that, the winner for tonight's giveaway, and if you don't know what we're talking about, go back to the Upfront Games episode. It was 2 episodes ago, and you get all the details there. But you can win a free t-shirt that says, support your local donut shop, go to church. And you're also going to be entered into another grand prize at the end after 50 days, which I believe is June 11th. You'll have to double check. And we're going to give a grand prize winner, which is $125 worth of stuff. So check that out. All right, tonight's winner
I'm so excited. I don't know. You didn't tell me.
Crystal Stringer.
Crystal Stringer.
Congratulations. We'll be sending you an email with all the information that we need from you.
Yay, Crystal.
So, if you guys haven't already entered, please do so. Just send us an email at ministrycoachpodcast@gmail.com and put in either the subject or the body of the email free 50, and you will be entered into our contest. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time.